You know what you're listening to?
Is that a trick question?
It's the I Still Love This Game podcast with your host, Matthew Damian.
He's an idiot. Don't listen to this. He's an idiot.
I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Obviously you guys have read the title. This is not a joke. I wish it was. But Kobe Bryant, at the age of 41, has passed away. And, you know, the details are just coming in right now. And, you know, it looks like it was a helicopter accident and no one survived. Obviously, there'll be an investigation as to what went wrong. But Kobe's gone. And I really don't know what to say. This is shocking. It's tragic. And it's heartbreaking. Because here's a guy that a lot of us grew up watching, admiring, the Mamba mentality, all of that. And he defined a generation of sports, not just with his excellence on the basketball court, but the actual love of the game, which has been lost in so many ways. This guy played with broken fingers. He played with all kinds of injuries. This dude, he popped an Achilles. Popped an Achilles in the middle of a game as he was fouled, and he went and shot 2 foul shots with a popped Achilles. And then he came back. You know, there's so many memories. You know, so many memories. His attitude of just not being denied is what resonates. I don't know what to say here. I am really lost for words. And he, you know, where do you even begin? Did you start talking about the fact that he was really the first guard that was drafted straight from high school because he knew that college was going to be a complete waste of his time? Do we talk about he was the only one that actually embraced being the next Jordan? You know, that was considered a curse, whether it was Harold Miner or Jerry Stackhouse or Vince Carter. Well, not so much Vince Carter, but even Vince Carter, he shied away from that. Kobe didn't. Kobe went after it. He didn't get there, but he got pretty damn close. And that just shows that I don't even think it's appropriate to talk about how great he was as a basketball player. I'm still in shock. You know, I could write a book on this guy. But all the memories, man. All the memories. You think about it. Like I don't know about you guys. Some of you guys might be older, some of you might be younger, but for my generation, we grew up watching this guy. We grew up admiring and loving this guy. And these freak accidents do happen. You know, people die on the roads every day. Of all people, I know that. But I am speechless. And I'm trying not to cry, but it's okay. You know, if it happens, it happens. I'll edit it out. It's fine. But man, when you think about this, when you think about what he accomplished, everything he set out to accomplish, he did. Whether it was to be drafted straight from high school, which Kevin Garnett did start again. He wasn't the first, but Kevin Garnett and all the guys before him that were drafted straight from high school were all big men. That was sort of a sure thing because of their size. Now, of course, size doesn't always translate into being a dominant NBA player, but it's even less of a sure thing with guards. Kobe was a guard, and he was the first guard that was drafted straight from high school, and that wasn't good enough for him. he wanted to go play for the Lakers. He wanted that pressure of continuing the Magic Johnson legacy, the Jerry West legacy, of other great guards that have worn the purple and gold. And he embraced that as a rookie. He didn't get a whole lot of playing time. He was only 17, and Del Harris didn't want him to play. But Kobe kicked the door down that very next season. He came back in shape, in great shape. He was in shape when he was 17, but 18 he put on muscle, and he went head-to-head with Jordan in 98. So much so that it was a game in Chicago that the basketball world took notice, and they're like, we need to see more of that. So the basketball world ended up voting him into the All-Star game, despite him not being a starter on his own team. Eddie Jones and Nick Van Exel were the starters. And they voted Kobe in to be an All-Star game starter to ensure that we got an additional game of Jordan versus Kobe. And it's funny. It's not funny, but it's ridiculous, because I said in the last episode with David Stern, David Stern passed away as a commissioner, and I said, we've got to stop taking these guys for granted. And I was talking about, Jordan, I was talking about Bill Russell, I was talking about Kareem, I was talking about these guys because it's not guaranteed. I never thought Kobe, man. Kobe was 41. I'm going to miss him. I'm going to miss him. I'm going to miss, the memories will always be there, being a kid growing up in Australia, and of course the time zone for the games in Los Angeles. You'd finish school or whatever, and you get home just enough time to catch the Lakers playing whoever, and Kobe was the main attraction for that. And whether it was with Shaq, or with Pau Gasol, or Phil Jackson, Derek Fisher, all those greats, man, all of them. And I don't know what to say right now. I know I keep saying that, but I don't know what to say. I've got a million thoughts right now going through my head. And it's just, when your mind is racing like that, it's hard to get one train of thought in one direction. The respect that I had for Kobe was second to none, because he never cheated the game. He did things his way. They weren't always good. He did shoot the ball a lot, I know that. But the confidence of he was just going to force his way into being successful, and he did. He forced his way into being a top 10 player of all time, and I'm not saying that just because he passed away. Hell, I would take him over LeBron James. I know that. I'm not trying to start an argument with anybody, but the reason I would take that is just he was dependable. He may not always shoot well, but he'd always compete. Every single second of every single game, he was a competitor, and he was fearless. You don't say that about too many basketball players. Fearless. That's usually not something that's synonymous with them. And he took no prisoners. And he and Iverson and Kevin Garnett and those guys, I'll never forget when he scored 81 points. I'll never forget when he dropped 62 in 3 quarters up against Dallas. He outscored Dallas by himself throughout those 3 quarters. And the confidence, the set of balls on this guy, because when you get to 62 points in 3 quarters, you can get an 80-point game easily. And he was, and one of the assistant coaches, I think it might have been Brian Shaw, said to him, do you want to go back in and see what you can get? See if you can get to 70, see if you can get to 80. He's like, no, I'll get it another time. And Brian Shaw recounts that, and he says, he was annoyed at Kobe for saying that, because you don't get those opportunities too often. 2 months later, he's dropping 81 points on Toronto. And when I say he transcended the game of basketball wasn't getting the media love that it gets now. But this is how big this was. That was during the NFL championship. So not the Super Bowl, but the championship. So you got your 2 conferences, right? And everybody in media wanted to talk about, obviously, the AFC and the NFC title games. That was a given. But when Kobe scored 81 points, everybody wanted to talk about 81 points. You think about the game, you think about how many games have been played. That is the second most points in NBA history in one single game. Wilt Chamberlain is the only guy ahead of him. And I rate Kobe's over Wilt's because Wilt's teammates, and I love Wilt, but Wilt's teammates were fouling the opposition prematurely to ensure that Wilt would get more points. Kobe's 81-point performance is the most impressive regular season scoring output in NBA history. And I talked about his Achilles. You know, people forget about that. You know, he was 34, 35, I don't know what it was, but he was running on fumes. He had played more seasons in the NBA than he hadn't throughout his life because he was only 17. So that was really his 18th year or whatever it was, and he was run into the ground by Mike D'Antoni. Everybody knows that, but he didn't care. He just wanted to play. He just wanted to get the team into the playoffs. And they had Dwight Howard. They had Steve Nash, who was injured a lot. Pau Gasol, obviously. Antoine Jameson, I believe, was on that team too. And Artest. And, but the thing I'll always remember about him on the court, they're not all those performances. They're not even the 5 championships. It's the way he went out. You know, he was limping to the finish line. And we would have all happily taken 20 points from him in his final game as a send-off. That wasn't good enough for him. He went out there and he scored 62 points. He carried the Lakers down the stretch. That's something I'd never thought I'd see possible. Think about this. This is how much this guy was loved. The Lakers clearly out of playoff contention. It was a meaningless game in terms of the playoffs. The Golden State Warriors had won 72 games. They were at 72-9. And they were going up. I believe Memphis was a playoff team that year. I can't remember. They definitely were the year prior. And Golden State needed to win one more game to break the Bulls' record for most wins in a regular season. Nobody cared. Nobody cared about that game. They all cared about Kobe's last game. And Kobe went out there. He struggled a little bit early on, but my goodness. Ends up scoring 62 points, his final game. Or was it 60? I can't remember. He scored. It was in the 60 range. How about that? But I just remember watching the game, and then because I try to avoid TNT at all costs, so I was watching the Lakers local broadcast, right, with Stu Lance, and I thought that was fitting too. But that game, the intensity, the crowd reaction was second to none. To do that in his final game, oh my God, and he's gone now. He's gone. He's gone. I'm going to miss him. He was going to be inducted in the Hall of Fame next year. No question about that. He was a lock for the Hall of Fame. Because you've got to wait 5 years, I think it is, whatever it is, you've got to wait 3 years since retirement. I don't know what it is. He was a lock along with Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan. They all retired the same year, the same season. This is sad, man. This is sad. Basketball, the basketball world, the sports world, and the world in general is reeling. This is a very, very sad moment. And I think I'm just going to leave it at that. I will do another episode on this when I have my thoughts together. We will miss you, Kobe. We will miss you.